So I'm going to be walking here to right over there. So don't get nervous. If you get nervous because I'm pacing, it's because I don't like being behind a podium because it gets boring and you guys will fall asleep because we put sedatives in the tacos. So yeah, I that's why I didn't eat. So just letting you know. All right.
Or side screen.
All right, no worries. All right, so thank you for being here. I have about 36 minutes of content. I will not bore you, I promise. I've sat through a bunch of these before. I sat through the last one, I think 3.5 years ago in this room. So that was a long time ago. Somebody was giving away a pineapple. You guys know what a pineapple is? Yeah, we got a cup. Yeah, 3, 4, 5. That was amazing. Back then, I think it was going for like 500 bucks and they were giving it away. Somebody had sponsored. I was like, I want that. And my kids had no idea what it was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got home and then I ordered it and it was on back order and I never got it. And eventually I got my money back. So now I might go buy another one. It's like cheaper. I think it's like 250 bucks now. So, and if you don't know what a pineapple is, go look it up. It's amazing. It's a fruit that's not a fruit. So who am I? Senior solutions architect for Armor Code, and I hate selling. So it's a really weird dynamic when you have to go into a group and you have to pitch something without pitching it. So most of the stuff that you're going to see on here is very not pitchy. It was created by a really good friend of mine. He's the chief product officer of Armor Code, and he and I went back and forth on this content. He put it together, he polished it up, and he said, Luis, go ahead and use it at your OWASP and let me know how it goes. I've already used this 3 times and it did well. So if you guys have feedback afterwards, please fill out a card, put it in the wastebasket over there, and I'll take your consideration. So I'm also recording myself, so you might see clips of this on LinkedIn and be like, oh yeah, I was there, or wow, you really sucked, I hated you. That's fine too. I love heckling. So just keep that in mind. I've been doing this for a little bit, and I've been doing, a little bit of a lot. I've worked for a company called Logarithm. I worked for a company called Securonics. I worked for a company called FishMe/Cofense. I think the industry is ready for people who have done a little bit of a lot. So most of you that are here probably have some stories from about 4 years ago to where you're at today. As do I. I think I'm going to do a talk on that on LinkedIn after I get enough people, say that that's funny or not funny, because there's a lot of people trying to break into the industry. Solutions engineers, solutions architects, sales engineers, whatever, pre-sales, whatever you want to call them. There's at least 5 to 1 on jobs to people available. So it's a lucrative business right now. If you guys know anything about solutions architects or sales engineers, just point them to LinkedIn. Right, there's entry all the way from the bottom up. Right, you start at the sales table and work your way around. So now, what we're going to talk about today, really, this is pretty simple. I'm not going to read it to you. I don't like reading slides to people because I believe you guys are all adults. You look like adults, and if you're not, then my bad. But the whole point to all of this is you can actually take away some lessons when you go back. Meaning you can share them with your friends, you can share them with your family, you can share them with coworkers. It doesn't matter. The whole point is that it's not going to be something that you're just going to be like, well, that was kind of a waste of 45 minutes. No, you can actually go use it. So what are we going to talk about? Really, it's just the way the industry has evolved into, in the beginning there was waterfall, right? Who uses waterfall or has used waterfall in the process? Who liked it? Put my hand down. You're like, maybe. At the time, it was the flavor of the week. But I put that little meme of Drew Carey. Again, I'm aging myself. I use a lot of dye in my hair. But Drew Carey having this show. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. Whose line is it anyway? Yeah, I've got a couple of. The whole show was hilarious because back then I had no idea what improv was. I was watching it, I was in high school, and this guy with his group of other guys, and they would get up and they finally got females in there. And I feel that's kind of how we are in the security industry. We finally got some females, like 2%, I think now, Are we up like 1%? We got a lot today. That's exactly right. I was like, wow, it is a record. You're right. Because every time I go into a security room, I'm like, have we brought it up to speed, right? Is it like a 60-40 or something? It really isn't. So when I was watching Drew Carey, it reminded me of this whole scenario. And I'm like, yeah, I got to put this on there, right? Because it doesn't mean anything. The whole process, what we're going to talk about is what it's going to take for industries to move away from the idea of there's info here, there's info here, there's info here, right? Silos, everybody has them. And then unfortunately, teams aren't talking to each other. That's it. That's what it comes down to. I know because in the last 18 months, I've talked to companies from SMBs to 3 people, I think was the smallest one I've talked to over 300,000. And the same conversation comes up. I don't know why, but it does. And they're like, well, our teams don't actually talk to each other. So we've got a lot of things that need to get fixed. And we don't really know where to start. So it's more about the process than about the technology. And that's ultimately what we talk about today. If I pitch anything on the company that I currently work for, please throw something. I know I've got some participants over here. They will. I'm going to open this up a little bit because right there, that little pic, I think it's been circulating since '98. All right, with the hoodie and the person behind the hoodie. Well, right now when I walked in, the guard goes, "Yep, he belongs here. He's all blacked out." I was like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "Yeah, you're for OWASP, right?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." And your black backpack. I was like, "Dang it." I totally just, got profiled and it was true. I mean, I was here for him. So he nailed it. But I think it's funny because the last time that I presented to OWASP or CISA or ISC squared, I was in a suit. That was a bit ago. I looked at my closet today and I looked at the suits and I was like, dang, I'm never going back to that. And literally, I do not want to go back to the old way of doing things. I super enjoy what we've created. I know pandemic sucked. And I even have my vaccine card in my backpack just in case somebody asks me somewhere in Austin. You never know. And so I have it in there. But I don't want to go back to the old way of doing things. And I think this is what you're going to start seeing is, look, how are we going to start moving from where we were to where we need to be? And everything's moving really quickly. Nobody's talking to each other. We've got a slew or suite of tools from, just name it. It can be open source. It can be off the shelf. It can be, if your friend made it and they're like, "Here, try it." That's a thing too. I've got a few friends that make their own things that I usually become the guinea pig and I test stuff out. I was testing an app the other day, and this app goes and it finds Rolex watches that are second and third market, and then they go through an algorithm and comes back and it says, "Yeah, you should go buy it." And it happens in seconds from around the world. And when you do that, there's a lucrative market. I had no idea. I thought I was just testing a regular, Craigslist kind of app. But this was focused on the secondary market for watches. $30,000, $40,000, used is still a thing. I used it and I broke some stuff because I did some searches that weren't there. And anyways, I made the app choke. I didn't know, but that's what we were supposed to do, test it out. So the whole concept of this is where we were, right? Waterfall, the agile. Yeah, what do they call it now? Wagile? Has anybody called? Have you heard that now? You haven't heard that? All right, so Wagile, look it up. It's actually, Urban Dictionary now. It's a combo because not much has changed in the sense that we're still using a lot of the same methodologies, but the one thing that has really changed is the decentralization of apps. Right? That's the big one for me anyways, because having the concept of where I was in 2010, thinking about, web applications, it was amazing. Everybody was excited about it, but it was very much in here. Now we've got mobile apps that are here everywhere, right? You're sharing all those depots and the repo and, just a clock can break something. Right? Think about how a clock breaks a lot of things. I I have a son who's now 20 years old. He broke his Game Boy. You guys remember what a Game Boy is? Or some of you know what a Game Boy is. Kind of like a Switch, but before the Switch. He broke his Game Boy game by just changing the clock. He had no idea what he was doing, but he knew that if he changed the clock, the game that he was playing was like an original Pokemon, and they had little eggs, and that little egg would go through a metamorphosis, some kind of evolution, and it would grow into like a bigger, kind of character, whatever it was. So he knew that if he fast forwarded a few hours, that thing would grow. And so he did it on his Game Boy. He cracked it, and he was just like, I just went and changed my time to 2 days in the future. So by the time he was done with the game, he had literally hacked the OS, not had done anything, but all he did was change it. He was 5 years in the future because he had played all these different little, characters, and he kept evolving them. So by the time he was done, he had a full suite of Pokemon. And it was before you could actually start sharing and doing all this other stuff. It was just time. That's all he did. He literally went into the OS and said, it's not today, it's tomorrow. Bam. Something that simple. So when we're talking about looking at the AppSec chaos that we currently have, what's happening on the attack surface, commercial and political motivated attacks? Yes, I mean, all of this you've heard before. I know because I've heard it. I heard it when I was at Logarithm, when I was doing SIM, right? There was a lot of nefarious actors. Sometimes the internal user was really involved in doing all of this, potentially selling secrets and making, side hustle money. And why not? So now, Purple Book is actually the one that I wanted to talk about because they're an NGO, they're a sidearm that my CEO started, and they created this book called the Purple Book of Software Security. Free, go get it. That's the URL. And that's Mark up there, top right corner, and that's me without a beard. I don't know who that guy is, but he had a suit. So if you look real close, you can see I've got the suit on. I don't think I'm ever going back to a suit unless it's a funeral or a wedding. I'm just saying. And the whole concept of the Purple Book is very similar to what OWASP is. It's a community, individuals not selling anything except for talking about ideas. It's about 68 CISOs, about 100 directors. I think we're right around 350 in there. So if you want to go in there, take a look at it, download the book. This report that I'm talking about came from the Purple Book. So we did some research, and that's what we're talking about today. Hey, they threw their hats. All right, Purple Book, purple hats. I get it. All right, so this report was from last year. We're about to do the one from this year. We started it as soon as we finished this one. And if you want to go and participate, there's a little QR code. It's going to be bigger in a minute. But the whole point is that this is coming from you, from individuals that are doing what you're doing, from individuals doing a project, actually putting applications together, building it from scratch, or trying to make a better process than you currently have. And this is what gets really interesting to me, because when you start talking about numbers and percentages, well, how many people actually were involved? From what I was told, there was about 600 people. Right, so it's a fairly good little indicator. It's not the best. I was hoping for 1,000. Maybe this year we'll get a little bit more than 1,000, because now I can statistically say, hey, that's a good little number, right? Shipping fast takes priority over shipping secure. Eesh. Does anybody agree with that? No? Yeah. Kyle's like, yeah. So my CEO tells me a story. He goes, Luis, they used to shake, when he was a developer, they used to shake a $5,000 bonus in front of us. If we could ship it out as fast as we could, that's what we would do. He goes, unfortunately, that is still happening today. I don't know about the money, but it's still happening today. He goes, so we're incentivizing really bad behavior. I don't know who has kids here, but I have many kids. I have. Exactly. That's exactly right. So that concept is still alive today. And so the fact that you're incentivizing greediness, yeah, there you go. It's true. So I don't know who has children here. I have, quite a few. They range from age 22 all the way down to 7 months. Yeah, I told you I use a lot of dye in my hair. But the concept that I've learned from children to security is huge. Meaning you incentivize what you want to see. You incentivize the behavior that you want to create for the next 5 years, for the next 3 years, for the next 2 decades. Now, everybody has a different parenting style. I get that. We talk about silos. Well, maybe all of this information is over here for that 3-year-old, and that's where they're going to go get their information, wherever that is. I normally subscribe to the concept of 0 to 10 years old, the children are yours. After 10, their friends really start coming into that conversation. So from 10 to about 12, if you've ever seen children of that age, you need a lot of patience. They ask a lot of questions, a lot of really good questions, really hard questions, but they're more about the speed. They just need it. So thinking about the concept of speed and children and rearing them, you get a lot of unmanaged risk. What happens? Unmanaged risk to me is just something that you know is about to happen and you didn't do anything. It's that simple. You see the risk, there it is. Child might fall on their head, they're on a walker, and they're near stairs. As adults, we know that that could potentially cause issues. All right, maybe you take them out of the walker, carry them, get the walker, go put the walker down. Right, in Canada, they've already banned walkers, by the way. If you don't know what a walker is, it's an amazing concept of being able to help little guys and little gals being able to learn how to walk so that they, feel the ground on their feet and they start, oh, hey, this is amazing. I can jump, I can do all these things and then move. Well, Canada said those are too dangerous, so we cannot use them anymore. So they're banned in Canada. I don't know, Canadians, I don't know, maybe whatever. I'm not going to go there, except for that when you start thinking about that unmanaged risk, there's more. There's always more. Because even though there's risk, right? And I don't know how many of you know the conversation about the Ginsu knives, but wait, there's more. I just updated that one part of 37 million T-Mobile customers were hacked. If you haven't seen that, that's from January, I think it was January. I'm a T-Mobile customer and an AT&T customer. I have 2 lines. In case one of them goes down, I'm never down, right? And it happened. I yeah, you laugh, but it happened to us. I was only a T-Mobile customer and I lived in Colorado, and literally all the cell sites went down for 2 days. I had no cell site, no. I mean, it was horrible, right? Now, the internet's down. I panicked, and then from then on, I said, okay, wife, I want you to have T-Mobile. I'm gonna go to AT&T. So if that ever happens, and by the way, it's happened 3 times since. So we were able to still communicate with the rest of the world with having a mobile phone. Right, your internet obviously at home is a little bit different, but the whole point was back then it happened in, So either way, my info is everywhere now. It's state of Tennessee, lost some medical records, Citibank. Yeah, of course. TikTok, right? Who's been on TikTok? No. What about that face thing that changes your face? Right, that was going over to Russia as well. Our info is out there. I don't care what you say. You can prove me wrong later, but our info is out there. So now, what are you going to do with that risk? How are you going to monitor what's about to happen to you personally? Because now it is you. It is your credit card. It is your bank account. It is involved with your personal life. I use personal stories because they actually impact. My wife, about 3 years ago, wanted to buy a Michael Kors purse. I don't know what that is, but it was for my daughter. And she went and found a deal, a really great 60% off. I'm like, exactly. That's what I said afterwards, right? But she didn't consult me. I didn't ask her, hey, what are you going to buy the kiddos for Christmas? Right? I think that's what it was. And it was like October, November, and she got this really great deal. She goes and she proceeds to read the email, download the information. And from then on, and I wrote about it on LinkedIn because it was amazing. It was like a use case for my house. And my wife was so just like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I said, hey, it happens to everybody. Within 3 or 4 days, somebody at work at the time had clicked on a phishing email. And it was, at least we caught it, but they did the same thing. I said, see, they work in the industry and they fell for it too. She was like, oh, okay, well, now I don't feel that bad. I was like, you shouldn't. And now you can talk to your friends over coffee or whatever and say, look, phishing is for real. It happened, right? BECs are real still today. How much? I think it's like 40 billion. The FBI just talked about the numbers that just came in, 40 billion. That's insane. Those numbers are nuts, right? So it's not going away. It's only getting, more prevalent. So AppSec tools into the DevOps pipeline. All right, there's two schools of thought that I've heard the last 18 months is I don't want anybody in my pipeline, and I want to be able to see your pipeline. Again, the team's not talking to each other. For whatever reason, there's some animosity, right? Security slows everything down. You guys need to go fast, and I'm not going to let you, and blah, 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 right? So there's a little bit of tension. But it's a #1 initiative to the top ELT. I'm just talking about the report, right? I could be completely wrong, right? The report was 600x amount of people. You go and you take a look at it and you're like, oh yeah, but it was, 50 people from Chipotle. Right. I'm just picking on them because I love Chipotle. They're right by my house. So now thinking about the initiative, this is actually what people are doing, but then the recession happened, right? And things started to freeze. So I don't know how many of you have seen that so far, but it is #1 thing on every company that I've talked to. They're getting their budget frozen. Things were about to happen. They were about to close on a new tool. It was on the table of procurement. They had almost signed it, and then they said pause. I know we need this. It is an initiative. The boss said so, and we agree, but we got to wait. Now we got to build stuff with rocks and paper and duct tape, figure it out. So this concept right here of infra and apps coming together, it's huge, right? Unified vulnerability management. I also worked for a company called Kenna, had a little stint, and then COVID happened, then I got laid off. So that sucked. But I learned a lot while I was there. The concept of being able to understand what they are doing, and how it affects everybody, huge. So we're not talking about SIM. We're not talking about unifying alerts. We're talking about the workflow that it takes to actually fix something in infra and what it takes to fix in the application side of the house, right? With my software peeps. Where it's going is everywhere, literally, right? Dynamic, always changing, on demand. This is huge right here though, right? I don't know if you guys have used Terraform. Have you used Terraform? Some Terraform? No? Infra as code. So I use that example because I used to be part of the NOC. So the NOC would do all of this fix when something would break. It was a Cisco switch or a ProCurve or something along those lines. And I had to go and actually go fix whatever was there. It was a physical box. But that doesn't happen in the application side now because it has to go to another team. That team has to be okay with doing that work. And then they have to accept that remediation path. And then they say, look, this is what our pipeline looks like. But our boss told us that that's not important. It says here. So now that security champion, that's their boss, needs to be involved with how do I fix all of this? What is it that I'm actually trying to do? Because with Terraform, it's no longer going to be the NOC engineer or the firewall engineer that's going to fix it. It's going to be the person that understands the image. That was the last one that touched it. In this case, it would be a developer. So now, infra as code is huge. I mean, I literally hear about Terraform almost on every phone call that I'm on now. If you look, the third one looks like ET with a really long finger. That happens everywhere, finger pointing. Right? And then the overwhelmed and dissatisfied. That's the one thing. You can look at all of these and read them yourself. But at the end, the overwhelmed part, that literally happens. I just had a call this morning before I came, and they were saying, we can't get to it. We're working off of spreadsheets. We're working off of, what was the other one? Confluence. We're using Confluence as a database with all of these vulnerabilities because then I can feed them into Jira really quickly. Like, okay. And then what happens? This guy. Because you simply can't keep up. Here's the number, and I think I talked about it a little bit, but the number is about one AppSec engineer to about 200 to 250 on the dev side. I was talking to a company that had 2,000 to 1. How is that individual, literally just how many hours are in the day? That individual has to be awake for 2 weeks just to get through the first part of the tickets? It's not gonna happen. That individual is gonna say, you know what, this sucks, I'm leaving. Boom, they're out the door. They'll go get something else for about $40,000 more probably. Lots of data. Who cares? Who cares about the data? You have to put it into play somewhere. So it's in silos everywhere. It's in vendors everywhere. You've done all of your scanning, your DAST, your SAS, your SCA, everything comes in. And then what? Well, I don't know. Who's the ticket administrator? Sometimes that happens, right? A lot of times, nobody's the administrator. I have a company that's using one of those ticketing tools to do a lot of security because this company in the security realm and the ticketing realm has been around for a while. And they're like, hey, we've got some really good tidbits for you to do. But nobody owns that because historically the ticketing tool belonged to another team. And now they're going, I don't want the ticketing tool because I'm going to have to fix that too. And there's a mess of stuff from 3 years ago, just before COVID started. You know, the administrator jumped ship. So I don't think anybody on LinkedIn, I did a quick search for about 3-4 minutes. I just typed in ticket administrator, configuration management, admin. That doesn't exist. So that means that you and me are doing that work as well. Somebody in the industry is doing that on top of what they normally do. That kind of defeats the purpose of having tools that are going to help you, because if you're the one person doing 6 different roles in your environment, you can't get there. It won't happen. So now what do? Right? We've got visibility. That QR code lets you get in there and start looking at the actual report. But then what happens? This is where it starts to get really interesting, because what we found is that there is a pattern that we saw with the leaders, meaning the individual companies that are doing really well, how they're doing it, what they're doing as far as their pattern. And there was patterns that we're going to see here, because if you can measure it, you can report on it. You can't measure it, didn't happen. Right? For kids nowadays, my boys come over and they're like, you know, if you're not on a video, it didn't happen. Like, okay, I guess it didn't happen. Right. So understanding that the industry has those little patterns that are popping up is what this part of the report is talking about, right? How often do criticals or highs make their way into production? Any guesses? 3, 4%, 6%, 20? All right, keep that in mind. 25%. Don't know. And I they gave them, you know, the don't know to kind of give them a way out. But to me, that's an indicator of, oh, what the heck is going on? I'm going to have a job forever. I'm never going to retire. I just go in and start figuring this out. I could make a whole other company just talking about statistics and just pointing, oh, you're in trouble. Oh, you're in trouble. So what does a leader look like? Never release a critical, rarely, 7.6%. That's it. Those are the leaders. That means there's a lot of work to do. 92. 92 is a good number. I used to use that at school. I'm like, I got an 8, 92, whatever. So now, oh, this is where it gets good. How fast do we release? Right? Because we were talking about incentivizing greediness, right? $5,000, and that'll make me do some stuff. How fast do you remediate? That's the other one. If you have change management, you have to follow a process. There's no emergencies. What do? So here's what we found, right? Understanding that criticals and highs are the only thing really that we were paying attention to, because for the most part, nobody talks about the mediums and the lows or the infos. I'm just saying. In every industry that I've talked to for the last 18 months, I don't think anybody said anything about info. They don't care. Shut it off. Because they're overwhelmed by the criticals and the highs, and they need to get to those first. That's low-hanging fruit. And that right there, that little piece, the leaders, weekly to every 2 weeks. That is the sprint that they normally do. So that means if you're going to be thinking about it 5 to 7 days, whatever, if it's a business week, 5 days, if it's a full week, 7 days, and then 2 weeks. Okay? If that's the case, why are we incentivizing greediness and fast sprints? If we know that it should take around this long, and it should, because we went and looked at other reports, and they were talking about 8.3, 7.9, very similar to what we found, and they were doing other reports. They weren't even looking at the stuff we were looking at. So it's very telling. I think the expanded version of this is going to be even cooler because there's a few other spots that we put in. 86%. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. Interchangeable. Doesn't matter what tool you're using. Open vase, you know, a ticketing system that your friend figured out. The whole point is that the process, what have you put in place at your organization to actually help you mitigate this? If there's no statement of work for internal procedures, you know, an SOP, maybe nothing, maybe that's where you want to start. Who do you call when there's an incident? Right? Do you guys know what your CCERT is, the phone number that you're supposed to call in case something happens? Right? The roof falls, and who do you call? I ask this to companies all the time. Do you know what CCERT is? Well, yeah. Do you know who to call on that list? No. Do you know if that list has been updated in the last week or so? No. Is there versioning? Do you know that the guy that was on that list is no longer with the company? They moved 6 months ago, 6 years ago, right? All of these little pieces make a big difference. Now what tools are used? I said I wasn't going to talk about tools except for everybody else's tools. Right? This is a really cool little, you know, tool that we use, and the bigger it is, the more people use it. Right? I really like personally Burp Suite. We've been using it since, you know, before it was charged. Yeah, I think what is it? Burp Suite Pro is what they call it now. But when it was free, that's when I used it. But look at that big blue Pac-Man looking thing that's eating the other ones. Best of breed. That means best of breed. So why are we talking about a single point of failure and then saying, let's go to a suite of things if the industry really isn't moving that way? It's almost always for compliance and standards, and that doesn't keep you secure. That's a whole other topic we can talk about later. But best of breed tools, and there we go, the leaders again, 75%. So they're saying the right things, but they're not doing the right things. Because if they were doing the right things, that 7.6 number would be a lot bigger. Now this is kind of the speed round. This is the extra stuff. I find it very interesting though, when near the bottom where it says, let's see, bug bounty, right? Because bug bounty was like huge for a while, but the numbers start talking about 25%. Bug bounty or VDP maybe they changed the names. But this is interesting because when you see, like, you go to LinkedIn again, go review job postings, bug bounty and VDPs come up all the time, right? Because we need this. Interesting. But what's the highest number? Pen test? But that is another conversation as well. This one right here, the SaaS, DaaS, and pen testing. How do you do that where my red team talks to my administrators of SaaS and DaaS? Because that usually doesn't happen yet. It's usually a report that came through, a PDF, or maybe a CSV if you're lucky. Or somebody called you and said, hey, call me so that I can give you the report's 300 pages long. I've got screen caps to prove how bad you suck. Yep, here we go. Let's open it up. Same conversation I had 5 years ago, maybe. It has not changed. The collaboration between security and development. I talked about that at the beginning. It's still the same conversation. It's morphed a little bit. So as an industry, OWASP, right? Let's talk about we're being here. Have we done enough? Maybe we haven't. Maybe we have to change the model up a little bit, right? Because it's no longer about just the tool. It's about, are we training the individuals that are going into the industry correctly to be able to follow it from soup to nuts, right? And you get first meal or the first round of meals, you get your soup. At the very end, you get these, pecans and almonds and whatever it is, from the cradle to the grave. Maybe we're not doing a good job training the people that are coming up. Maybe, all right, I'm 40, almost 46. Maybe I'm not doing a good job mentoring people coming for the role that I have right now. Right? It's a hard thing to reflect on oneself because I've been doing this for long enough to know that if I'm not doing something, well, maybe they aren't either. But now we're seeing the repercussions because the conversations are very much the same. Now, operationalizing it, this becomes interesting because I'm not going to talk about this in the way that you think I am. I'm going to open it up because the conversation being ASPM, UVM, DevSecOps orchestration, ASOC, all of those pillars are super important. But again, if you haven't figured out that your teams aren't talking to each other, let's start there. And then from there, well, what does the pipeline look like? Are we actually doing something to remediate at point number 2 at deploy, or 3 or 4, or building? What are we doing? So this is where I start talking a little bit more about the scalability, right? Understanding the unification, because understanding the workflow, how you report on it, and what it looks like on infrastructure and application together. The tools, we talked about that. There's going to be more than likely 12 tools in every environment, and each of those tools have a flavor. And I'm giving guesstimates of what I've seen for the last 18 months. But when you start talking about, well, is there really a risk? Can I measure it? What does that risk actually consist of? Because remember, we talked about at the beginning of the child almost falling down the stairs, and you look at the walker, and then we're going to ban the walker. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Maybe we need to start teaching parents about the dangers of stairs and walkers. How about we start there? A little bit easier. Instead of saying, all walkers are banned. I love it. Exactly. That's exactly right. Let's just ban it. Ban it all. Right. I'm going to live in a bubble. And if you guys want, you can come visit me in the bubble. I'm not going there. So here's what's really interesting, right? The status, finding status, understanding that the finding status is just giving you a point of a data point, saying, hey, go look at this. And this is something that you need to go figure out because we're unifying all of it. Correlating, right? We use buzzwords all the time. Sometimes I get tired of them, but correlation is a real thing. You just have to know how to talk about it. Potentially, it's more of a similar finding than a correlated data point, because you can make false correlations, because you could say, hey, everybody that wears Doc Martens likes to listen to heavy metal and wear cool socks. Not true. And all black. Exactly. False correlation. But understanding that there are pieces of data in your environment that you can correlate, that you can start understanding and mapping correctly and putting owner, putting the risk to it, understanding the impact of the organization. It's all there. We're not even talking about tools right now. We're talking about just a process of going through and figuring out the tools that I currently have. I need to put them into play correctly. Maybe that tool has actually been what I've needed, but I haven't used it. I don't know how to use a spade shovel, so I need to go use a pick. Okay, go do that. I can still dig a hole with a pick and a spade shovel. So now, kind of opening this up a little bit more, because this is the boring part in my point of view. Automating is a conversation that I like to have. So I'm going to open that up. Automation. Everybody talks about it. SOAR. Demisto, Phantom, Swim Lane. Securonic says they've got some stuff. Logarithm says they've got some stuff. Right? What is it that you're going to automate, and can we automate 100%? Just give me yes or no. No, 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 no. Yeah, the answer is you can only semi-automate, but semi-automate doesn't sell. This is my semi-automated whatever. So I was sitting in the kitchen a few days ago, knowing that I was about to do this talk, and my wife was chopping onions, but with it's like this really cool chopper. It's not with a knife or anything like that, right? This thing has like it's a contraption. Bam! She does one onion like that. I was like, whoa, that's cool. I said, that's semi-automated. She was like, what? I was like, that's semi-automated. She was like, yeah. So you have to be involved. There's a workflow, an approval process, and then you go ahead and boom. But the onions are done in 6 seconds. As opposed to you can be a Michelin chef and you have the technique down and you keep your nails into the onion, and then you come in and boom, 6 seconds. Yeah, right. Try it. You can't. I don't care how sharp your knife is and how good your technique is. You're not going to do it. So that semi-automation, it actually does work. But you have to know how to use it. Because if I gave that to my 12-year-old and said, chop that onion, he'd look at me like I was a cow at a new gate. I don't know what you need me to do. I just need to chop the onions, but I'm not going to tell you how to use that onion chopper. So the 12-year-old says, I'm going to look it up on TikTok, and he gets around my security. New finding, there's a trigger, understanding, all right, it's kind of small, having some filters in there about how your trigger is going to go, and then eventually you chop your onion. But then using the existing ticketing and communication systems. This is what I was talking about before. I mentioned some ticketing systems. Let me mention them by name now because they're popular and they work. Jira, right? ServiceNow, anybody? Snow, right? Azure DevOps, their ticketing portion of it. I don't know if you've used it or not. I have. It's pretty cool. So those three right there, like 96% of the industry is using them. So that other 4% is like, your random cousin from wherever that nobody talks to. So if you have a new ticketing tool, let me know. I'd love to write it down on my list. So we talk about Slack, we talk about Teams, because the communication on the CI/CD pipeline is where is all of this data coming from? Do I have another spreadsheet that the security team just put together for me that has 90 tickets that I'm supposed to go figure out? Guess what? Security's dumb. I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to go turn off my ticketing alerts, and I'm going to go close the ticket, and I'm not going to tell anybody that I did that. Come on, I've seen a lot. I mean, I really have. And then when my kids are like, hey, I'm going to lie to you about something, I'm like, tell me a good story. Because here's the thing. The collaboration part works so much better. And then I talked about myself, mentoring, right? This right here. What are we doing in the industry to be able to mentor those that are coming up from behind, right? I would have loved somebody in my shoes to look back and say, hey, Luis, you need, at 22 years old, here's where you need to go. Here's what you need to do. I think that the industry is going to go here, here, and here, and here. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, what about Symantec? Are they going to be forever, around doing everything? The answer is no, but they're probably going to do a lot. Right? AV, they did a SIM at one point. Right? They have Sophos now, endpoint technology, blah, 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 blah. Right? Just Symantec. Right? How about Norton antivirus? Anybody still use that? No. All right. WebRoot. I remember WebRoot when they were in Boulder. All right. I went to visit their offices. So the whole point is that I could have told. I'm telling my kids now and my kids' friends, if I can train you, if I can show you in your environment what's wrong, and I can train you, doesn't that make it a little bit better? Because now I've given you something that you didn't have before. You can actually utilize that in some different way, potentially to monetize it. But I'm mentoring them to do something, right? A bike. I didn't have anybody to show me how to, fix my bike. 9 years old. So I called my uncle and I said, "Hey, uncle, what's going on here? I'm looking at my bike." I couldn't just, snap him a picture and FaceTime and be like, "Can you fix it for me?" No, right? I had to actually use the phone. And I was on the wall going, doo, 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 doo. And then I'd walk with my big old cord and I'd, "Hey, I need your help." And then he said, "Yeah, I can help you." So he showed me one time and he said, "I'm not going to show you again. So you better pay attention. I've got a life. I've got work to do. I've got all these other responsibilities. You're 9, figure it out. You have time." I did. So now I can fix a bike, mountain bike, air shocks, whatever. I can do it. Take it apart, put it back together. So now SLA achievements and breaches, blah, 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 SLAs. These are huge. Nobody talks about this when I'm pitching something. Everybody forgets about SLAs, but they're there. Let's get to go there. Sometimes they're there. But they need to be there. They should be there because internally I have customers, same way I have externally. So I should have some kind of agreement internally to be able to do my job correctly, and it needs to be measured. And if it can't be measured, well, it didn't happen, right? I closed that ticket. Hey, it's fixed. There's no SLA. I didn't screw up policy. And then talking about gating, this is amazing. I love gates. I really don't. Because again, now I'm slowing down the process. I'm releasing, I'm holding, I'm passing all of the criticals that we talked about before with the leaders being able to release on a certain cadence, right? That sprint is going to be 4 weeks and everybody's excited, and then they release and everything has holes in it. Okay, well, maybe we need to figure out what those gates really are and what they mean. I'm going to open that up a little bit because auto discovery, again, we talked about automatic, semi-automated. All right, what happens when you find a lot of assets with Nmap? Has anybody used Nmap before? What happens when you find a lot of assets with Nmap? Is it a fun thing? No? Do you go home and you're like, guess what I'm going to do today? Open up a glass of wine or drink a glass of wine, and I'm going to Nmap the crap out of my network. Yeah. Get a straw. Those really long coffee straws. So, automatic assets. Yeah, they're going to be there. I guarantee you, when everybody says, I'm going to do an auto discovery on all of your network and I'm going to come back with a bunch of really good data. Yeah, good luck. Walk away. That person's lying to you. Ask them the real question. What are we going to do with all those assets once we get them? What's the remediation process? Is there a step? Do you have that book to show me? Because I know that internally, I don't even have SLA. So why would I even know how to do this? So here's what we're talking about, key capabilities from what you want from a platform. This is a soft pitch as to the company I work for, but this is something we really thought about, because if we don't get it right, then customers, potential customers, prospects will come back and say, you're lying. You're making stuff up, right? You're selling me some snake oil. I don't ever want that conversation, because I belong in this community and I've been in this community for the last 15 years. And guess what? You eventually might see me, even if there's a pandemic. You'd be like, Luis was full of crap, right? I don't want that to happen. That's my personal brand. I don't ever want to be, my kids tell me enough that I lied to them. And I'm like, I didn't lie to you. I didn't know 10 years ago what I know now, right? So potentially vendors that you're talking to, they might not know. Maybe they're truly ignorant. we'll give them that pass. Ingesting, triaging, and remediation. This is the easy part. And now we're bringing it home because I'm getting the signal. 150 integrations. Yeah, that's real. I didn't make that up. And that is where you download the report. Thank you. You guys have been amazing. I actually saw people interacting and thinking, having their, their thinking face on. So maybe we'll see you in September. I don't know. All right. Sounds good.
Say we got 5 minutes left. So if there's any questions, we can ask that or not. Any questions in the room?
Yeah.
Kate has one. Hold on.
So do you think the animosity between AppSec and Dev is related to gatekeeping at all?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. And somewhere somebody put that gate up and I don't know who they are, but they made for animosity.
AppSec driven by security, they just,
Yeah, burgers, right? I can't stop the burgers from flowing. If I do, and I'm a burger joint, then I have a problem. So what ends up happening is I'm stopping the burger. In security, I'm saying, hey, slow down. The onions are bad. And it's going to ruin the whole burger. And everybody's like, no. Yeah, it's a spinach recall. It has E. coli. Cilantro tastes like soap.
Is there, oh, we got one more in the room. Hold on. Yeah, anybody online while I wander over here?
Nice.
Thanks. At the end there, you were talking about, gating on criticals, right? But so did you say you don't like gating because it slows down the process, or like, do you recommend it?
I don't like gating because it's not used properly.
Okay.
How about that?
That makes
Because
sense.
ultimately, if it was used properly, it would never have been a problem. So nobody would talk about it.
Yeah. Because I guess my core question is, if you don't put those gates in place, then how do you really enforce those SLAs? Because the process is, it's end to end. They hit the button, they're through. Even if you escalate, hey, you have a critical, you're going to some higher up and it's a hand slap, right? So then you don't really have any way to get into the process.
So is there another way to be able to incentivize the dev side of the house without telling them that there is a restriction? Meaning, could we categorize the work that we're doing differently than calling it you're restricted, your hands are tied behind your back, right? What if there's a little bit more collaboration on that side of the house and being able to bring in the security champion, bringing in the team, and being able to say, look, I can't force you to do it this way, but this is what we already saw because I'm mentoring 3 other people that had the same problem as you. Why don't we use that to help you?
Right. So you're talking more about like a culture shift, basically. That's hard.
That's you. Oh, hey, you. I didn't talk about culture shift on my slides here for a reason, because that's really the hardest way. Right, and it was there before you got there, right? Right, before I got there, it was there. Right. So then maybe we should have another talk on incentives, because I think it's a valid talk.
So we have 2 online here. Any good strategy to deal with false positives on pipeline from Juan?
Oh, false positives on pipeline. Geez. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. Because now we're saying that the false positive that came in from that particular vendor is a source of truth. And so if we're in this scenario, it is a real false positive, then you want to be able to put that into a bucket and saying, potentially there's more of these, bulk process all of them and say, put them to sleep for about 15 days till we figure out where they're coming from. And then go ahead and create a process for the dev team to say, hey, we're seeing all of this. Could it potentially be that somebody's writing code incorrectly? And then we're picking something up, right? It could be a teaching moment as opposed to slapping your hand moment, right? The whole carrot before the stick or the stick before the carrot. I don't know what you guys prescribe to, but I'd rather, feed my kids carrots. How about that?
I see questions about and comments about training and other stuff, but we are actually past almost up to time here. So I think Louise has done great here, but I know we could go on for another quite some
Oh,
time.
yeah,
'cause these
probably
are
about
great
another hour.
questions. If you want to look at what's in the chat in the long run and you want to reply to these folks, I'd be
Yep.
great there. So, but I want to thank you all. Thanks, especially Louise, for doing this. And for everybody, thank you for coming to the OWASP Austin chapter. And thank you for everybody being online. And hope to see you next month.
Cool. Thank you.
Same place.